Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey there. Yep, today's Monday and you're getting a new episode. From now on, we'll be putting out 2 episodes every week, one on Monday and one on Wednesday, so that way you could get more insights and more concrete tools to make your relationship extraordinary. And as you continue letting me know what you want more of, that's what I'll put more out of. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, we're here today with Harriet Cabelly. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on, ST.
You want to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, but I have to start by saying my oldest daughter is named ST, but we don't spell it ST, we spell it ESTI. But I just think it's so cute how you spell it, S and T.
Yeah.
Right away, I connected with you from the name. So tell you about myself. I'm an empty nester, which I love. My kids are all out and independent and leading full lives. So I'm very excited about that. And I love my work because I was working for the Board of Ed for 20 years as a social worker. And 8 years ago, I left, called retired, but I don't use that word because I've moved on, working more now than I did then. And it's all in what I love. So I'm a grief counselor. So I work with people going through any type of loss or critical life challenges, not just grief due to death, but divorce, retirement, illness, disability, anything that involves loss and how we rebuild our lives and go beyond our loss. And it's very meaningful, amazing work. I also lead women's groups. I speak, I lead book clubs. So I do a lot of things, but all under the big umbrella of helping people live their best lives through their personal challenges.
Because you love it. It's not work, no?
Exactly. Right.
Okay, so do you want to tell us what makes your relationship extraordinary?
One word I can encapsulate that: fun.
I like that. Isn't life just meant to be fun?
It's meant to be fun. So that's probably the best aspect of my relationship, is the fact that we can be silly and have a lot of fun together. Doesn't mean that we don't go through the difficult times and the chores and the everyday hassles of life, but that's what stands out when you ask that question about my relationship. That's the standout positive factor of ours.
So is there anything specific that you do?
You mean to make it fun? Yeah. We're very silly together. We sing out loud, we laugh at silly things, we act goofy, and then we do fun things together. We like doing similar leisure things. So we love going out and having great day trips. We love traveling. We love outdoors. We really like doing similar recreational activities. So we're always up for like going and doing. Yeah, so that's really a big plus, because that really enhances and enlivens a relationship. So it's the doing that's pleasurable and enjoyable together, and then it's actually the fun that we can have even if we're home being like ridiculous.
Fun doesn't take anything to make it fun. It could be fun anywhere.
Exactly. Good way to put it. Yeah.
Has your impression of your husband been fun from the beginning? Has it changed?
Has it been fun from the beginning?
What was your impression in the beginning?
Well, what attracted me to begin with to my husband was his easygoing nature. This is my second marriage, and that was very appealing to me, coming off of a first marriage that was quite the opposite. So having someone so easygoing and low key and not an arguer was just very refreshing. So I didn't look at it then as fun. This was what I was welcoming into my life, this just easygoing nature. In later years, I appreciated more of the fun and silliness. In other words, that's what I kind of honed into later on. I'm not even sure when we became empty nesters, about 8-9 years ago. I think that's when more of the fun and silliness started coming in. Like, that rejuvenated our marriage once all our kids moved out. You know how sometimes when people become empty nesters, there's a big shift in the relationship, and it could sometimes be rough because you've been together dealing with the kids, and now it's like, uh-oh, you're alone, and you have to like reconnect in a different way. So I think that fun piece, which is a positive, came out more when we became empty nesters, which is great because it kind of put us on a good track when we were now going to be journeying through life ourselves without our kids to focus on. So that's a big plus.
Yeah. So you noticed the easygoing piece, and then you connected to the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because maybe also because I became more appreciative of the fun and the silliness after the, I'll say, difficult child rearing years. I have a daughter with special needs. I mean, working and raising kids, it's not so lighthearted. So
Right.
I didn't exactly hone in on fun. I mean, I'd have fun times just because that's me, but it wasn't like something I honed in on. But once we were on our own, it was like, became lighter. So I started appreciating that in myself more and connected with my husband on that.
It's a magnet. It pulls out of him also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because as I'm talking about it, it's something I never really thought about so concretely. It's kind of like I'm thinking about it now as I'm talking about it, and it's becoming more clear to me. It's interesting. I never exactly thought about it like this.
Yeah, that's why conversations are so good, because we take our thoughts and like put them out, and we have to make them into coherent sentences, and we figure more things out. Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
So what do you value most about your relationship?
So I value our good times together, but I value the fact that we have such strong similar values. I value the fact that we value the same things. I value the fact that it's important for us to do good or feel like we're doing good, meaningful things in the world. In other words, we really both value similar things, and what's important to us is similar. So I value that similarity in us as a couple.
Any specific examples?
Doing good for others, extending ourselves to certain causes. Okay, I'll give you one interesting example. A few years, well, maybe 10 years ago now, we foster raised a puppy to work with the disabled. And it's something that I initiated doing, and my husband got on board, and it was an amazing experience. And he treasured it. Even though I initiated it, he treasured it as much as I did. So it became something amazing that we did together. And then the doggie went on and passed all his tests and went to live with a little boy in Pennsylvania who has cerebral palsy. And it was a very meaningful thing that we did to give back, to just feel like we're doing something. And I have to admit, I initiate some of these things, but he's such a good sport. He goes along with me. And then, of course, he ends up liking it even more than I do. So here's another example. We did a Patch Adams clowning trip. I don't know if you or your listeners have heard of Patch Adams. He's a doctor who's also a clown. He's a little bit way out there. And I like his philosophy of medicine. And he does clowning trips all over the world. And I got this thing in my head that I would like to do one of his clowning trips. And my husband went along with me. And of course, he ended up liking it more than I did. You have to be like, there was no training for it. Anybody could do it. You just put on a costume and become uninhibited. And we were in Sicily for a week. This program where you visit, hospitals and orphanages and nursing homes and blah, blah, blah. And he was just such a good sport about something so silly that I decided to do that we did together. And he ended up, like I said, liking it probably more than I did, but it was great.
So I see that you do a lot of giving in a very fun way.
Yes, we look for these types of opportunities. Yeah, we do.
Makes life adventurous and just
adventurous, and feel like we're not just living here for us. We want to feel like there has to be something outside of ourselves as well. So that's like a value that we share.
And It doesn't have to be like, oh my goodness, I have to go and help this person. It's like, let's go and have fun and put on a clown costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that's meaningful and that we feel we're doing something good and worthwhile. It matters. And it's not always fun. I mean, puppy raising the dog was a lot of work. At one point we were ready to give the dog back. I mean, it was a lot of work. It wasn't necessarily fun. And it was sad to give back the dog. So there was a lot of, push and pull. Do we want to do it? But in the end, wow, it was so, so meaningful. When we had the graduation, we walked the dog up on stage like you'd walk a bride up to meet her groom, and handed the leash over to the little boy and his family. And it was like, oh my God, it was so meaningful.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. So so we share that type of interest and love of doing and giving.
So are there any challenges with values? Is there anything that you disagree with?
Well, it's not so much that we disagree in terms of values, but I say, if I want to be honest, one of the challenges is that Sometimes it's like the yin and the yang, or the opposite sides of a coin. So I said a little bit earlier that my husband is very easygoing. So on the flip side of easygoing could sometimes be more passive. Not always, but in my husband's case it is. And that sometimes is a source of contention because, like I said, I'll be the initiator and he'll go along with me, which is great. But sometimes it's like I want him to initiate a little more. So that can cause a little friction, a little tension. But again, every relationship has it. So in the overall, in the bigger picture, the other stuff takes over. And if I don't just hone in on that, it's pretty amazing to have that big picture of all that good stuff. But again, sometimes going through it and knowing I'm the one who always initiates and can't you do a little more can be a source of negativity sometimes, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, it's a challenge. So what helps you get through it to still continue initiating? You don't just stop.
No, I don't stop. Well, first of all, I continue initiating because I want to. Because if I don't, and then he ends up not doing it, who loses? I do, because
that's right.
This is the stuff that matters, is important to me. So I do. And then sometimes I will feel a little resentment. Again, being perfectly honest, I'll feel a little resentment. But what gets me through it is that when we end up doing it, or doing the activity that, let's say, I initiated, it far surpasses the process of getting there. It's like it was just so great, and so great that we could do it together and enjoy it and appreciate it and have fun and have it mean something to us. That's like, okay, that's what it is, then I do it. Then that's what it is.
Right now, let's say, for example, you are in a challenging situation. How do you get out of it?
Well, first I feel frustrated.
Yeah, your emotions just be.
Yeah, I let them be. I let myself be frustrated. I let myself feel annoyed. And then with some time or some minor arguing here and there about it, I proceed. Like, I'm not going to let it stop me. It bothers me, but I'll do it anyways. And I'll tell him, and he'll express, I know I should do more. I should be better at it. But you can't change somebody else. You have to just work on yourself. We know that.
Right.
Sometimes easier said than done, because we all keep knocking at the same door. And I'm sure he'd have some similar gripes about things that he'll say that he could tell me a million times and I haven't changed either. So it goes both ways. But in the end, it's always about us working on ourselves in terms of just accepting. And I think that's the key, is really acceptance. How much can we accept what the other person's flaws are, or how much that bothers us? In the moment, it could seem like, oh, it's horrible. It bothers me. It pushes my buttons. But again, to look at the bigger picture, in the scheme of things, how much does it really pull it down?
What was your best moment in your relationship so far?
Well, it's not a moment, but it's appreciating our travels together and making amazing memories. We love hiking. We hike around the world, and we have gorgeous pictures hanging in our den, and we look at them, and it's just such a rich tapestry woven into our lives. It's not just one, I'd say travel memories together.
Yeah. What's the best relationship advice someone has ever given you?
Don't sweat the small stuff. That's a piece of advice that we hear, that's the name of a book, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. I think that's really important, because we can all get bogged down in those details, those annoying moments when we're short-fused. The advice of don't go to sleep angry is something that I used to think is really important, but I think I've grown to not necessarily agree with that, because sometimes you need to just, even if you're going to sleep angry, like, sleep on it. And then maybe the next day you can see it differently. You can feel differently about it, because you've had some time away from the heat of the moment. Because sometimes when you just keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, because you don't want to end on an angry note, you just keep spiraling or going in circles and rehashing. And I think stepping away from it helps it calm down, and you can come back a little bit more clear-headed.
Yeah.
So that's a piece of advice that, we always hear, don't go to sleep angry, don't go to sleep angry. I don't think I agree with that. I think it's okay if you're annoyed and you go to sleep and you wake up and maybe things look differently or feel differently.
So you're more refreshed and you could think clearer.
Yeah. It's like when you're having a hard time in a situation. Like, I remember my mother used to always tell me when I was having a hard time with a piece of homework, she would say, okay, you tried it a million times. Now step away, do something else, and then come back to it.
Exactly.
Come back to it. It's like, It clicked.
Right there. Where was it the whole time, right?
And it's like you're just seeing it fresh. You're not stressed. You've detached a little, and then you come back and it's much better.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing like this. Sometimes you just keep hammering away, and you're killing it. You're not going anywhere. So sometimes stepping back really does help.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Esty. This was fun.
It was. Thanks, guys, for listening. Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think. And to book a relationship photo shoot, CJE session, or just to find out about more what we do, go to lifepicsrelationships.as.me. I'm waiting to hear from you.